Radio. Please hold while we connect you.
Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Now you have a voice 1 2 1 2. Cause everybody talking 96.1. Hold up, what's up? 96.1. Don't break the voice.
Thank you for choosing Voice of the People FM.
So you can take the boy out of radio, but you can't take the radio out of the boy, can you?
Broadcasting in high definition.
Voice of the People, 96.1 FM.
Have you ever wondered if your opinion matters? Do you know that your voice can change the narrative? Your voice matters. Lend your voice today. Become a part of our family on Voice of the People 96.1 FM Abuja. Voice of the People 96.1 FM Abuja. Now you have a voice.
Good morning and welcome to Front Page Recap on Voice of the People 96.1 FM Abuja. My name is Aliu Doma and today we are here again with some of the top stories that made the news during the week. In case you missed out due to your busy schedule or you listened passively, and now it is time for you to listen actively because you can as well participate in the conversation this beautiful morning. Today I've selected a couple of headlines that we will be looking at, top stories, especially the ones that shape our economy in Nigeria. We're going to be talking about the new Central Bank of Nigeria governor, talking about Cardoso, who assumed office yesterday, and also confirmed by the CBN that Godwin Emefiele has actually resigned. And we will also be looking at the new chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, because at this moment Nigeria is in dire need of revenue, and who is gonna spearhead the talking about our revenue generation? It is none other than Zaccheaus Adedeji, who is the new chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, taking over from NAMI. And also we will, if time permits, look at some of the economic benefits of ONGA, talking about the United Nations General Assembly that our president Bola Ahmed Tinubu attended in New York, United States of America. And quite intriguing and controversial, the return of subsidy. Declining value of Naira is also going to be on our menu today, and we have a guest join us on the program today. Quite an interesting moment to look at our topic today. We have Mr. Steve Wachku, who is an economist, join us via the telephone this morning to have a conversation on these topics. Good morning, Mr. Steve, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
All right, I'm sure you had a glimpse of what we will be discussing on the program today. Although, let me just allow you settle in on the program. Let's begin with the return of subsidy. Quite controversial, to say the least. It is perceived that Nigeria are now paying subsidy again after the removal of it by the president on 28 May after taking oath of office. What is happening with the issue of subsidy in Nigeria?
Well, the truth remains that, like you said, there is an illegal payment of subsidy, and that is not what Nigerians expected from the same man who have said that he will not indulge in payment of subsidy anymore. Ironically, the same government is paying subsidy through the back doors. I don't know how our law looks at it, but the much I know, the law plans at any expenditure of government of the executive that is not being appropriated. as we speak,
Yeah.
by the act and by the law of the Federation, the Appropriation Act or Bill of 2023 has no recognition
whatsoever
from the month of June or July for subsidy.
Yeah.
And there is no supplementary budget to that effect from the executive to the National Assembly for them to consider a subsidy payment. So it's unknown to our law if by any way the NNPC or the presidency is providing for fuel subsidy without it being appropriated. That's on the one hand. You also will recall that the two major determinants of this very price of petroleum products, precisely the fuel, is the international price of petroleum product or international price of crude oil and the exchange rate.
Yeah.
And you cannot divulge the discussion of the subsidy payment or price of petroleum products if you don't consider these very two dynamics or two variables.
Obviously.
Which are the crude oil price and the exchange rate. And since the announcement by the Mr. President, these same two commodities or two variables has gone up. As we speak, the crude oil is selling above $95 per barrel at international market price.
And that's even for Brent.
Exchange rates. Yes, that is ours. That is the Nigerian brand of the crude. And the exchange rate is only about 1,000 naira per dollar. So the two determinants of the price of this very byproduct of crude, which is petroleum products, are all gone far above the expectation permutation of the government. When we stood on that podium that day and said, I will not provide for oil subsidy.
It is no longer sustainable.
It's no longer sustainable. But he fails to realize the underlying factors. He fails to understand that the variables are much important than the price of the commodity at the market itself. Like I do said those days, you cannot unilaterally remove the fuel subsidy that's being provided without making sure that the structural and fundamental things are being taken care of. What are these structural? The structurals are the supply of forest to the market. Making sure that is 30, 40, 50% local production of refining of our crude. These are the structural and fundamental things that must be done before fuel subsidy is removed. But because he wants to score some political cheap points, he stood on that podium that day and he said things that is affecting his government as we speak. Now he's reversing it illegally. He's reversing it through the back door. So he should be bold enough, like we do encourage him. Mr. President should be bold enough, take away pride, come back to one podium, or he can even make it as an announcement that the fuel subsidy regime is returned back than going through the back door. We don't know how much he's providing, but by my own calculation, he will be paying close to 2 trillion naira in the next couple of months, based on the current price of food at international market price. Remember when we are buying petroleum products somewhere around 190, 195, 196 naira per liter. the price of petroleum or the price of crude was selling somewhere around $70 per barrel.
In fact, for our 2023 budget, we have a benchmark of $75 per barrel.
Yes, yes, that's also an advantage to the government, that the crude is selling far above your benchmark, your appropriation benchmark. That's a plus for him.
But again, Mr. Chris,
But the question will be, the crude is selling over above your benchmark. How about your production?
Oil thefts.
As we speak, we are still not meeting the OPEC quota of 1.6, 1.7 million barrels per day.
Yeah, of course.
That is where the crux of the matter is.
Yeah. So now, Mr. Steve, if we look at the two indices, the two market determinants, just like you talk about the international price of crude and also the exchange rate. Marketers came out, that is oil marketers came out to tell Nigerians a couple of weeks ago that it is no longer feasible for them to import the product into Nigeria because they might not be recouping their investment, let alone making profit. And indirectly, NNPC have now also assumed its role as the sole importer of the product in the country. And now we're saying there is no increase in the price of petrol. Could it be that NNPC have sufficient stock in their farm that will take us up until maybe to the next 3 months, until when Port Harcourt refinery will start production, or when Dangote refinery will start finally production and start selling petrol to the Nigerian markets?
Let me be honest with you. Most of these government officials, though I don't envy their position, but they are being economical with the truth. Why? Because I don't know what actually the group looks like. They are looking at why they don't want to tell Nigerians the truth. We remember that in this last spec, the governor's holdings is actually heading to court if an NPC does not provide with immediate effect about $300 million paid by LNG as dividends or royalties to NNPC, which NNPC withhold. Accounting that they use about $250 million of that very fund, $250 million to provide for fuel subsidy. For the month of August. So you cannot but imagine the depth of secrecy, the depth of lack of information by these very key agencies of government. You took more than $250 million to provide for subsidy that is not being appropriated by the federation, by the federal government.
About $220 million, and equivalent to Naira is about 169.4 billion Naira. That is at 770 Naira exchange rate, which is official. That is from the I&E window. We're not even using the parallel market exchange rate.
Just imagine the figures. Whether you use 220 or use 250, you are providing for fuel subsidy that is not being appropriated. I don't understand the kind of government we are running.
But again, Mr. C,
I don't know which kind of rule of law we want to abide with.
Let me ask you this question now. What is the position of the $3 billion loan that NNPC got from Afrexim Bank in order to beef up the deficit in the market, talking about the foreign exchange markets?
That is also overreaching for the NNPC to claim that the essence of that very loan facility of $3 billion is to stabilize the forex market. They are just overreaching themselves. In fact, they just absorb the powers or the duties of the Central Bank of Nigeria. That is the core mandate of the CBN to stabilize Naira. So what has NNPC to do with stabilization of Nigerian currency? NNPC entered into a deal that will provide the liquidity they needed to import petroleum products. Yes, they have a long-run effect or ripple effect of what data-bearing engagement will actually help CBN to manage the exchange rate. So why should NNPC solely claim that the essence of their deal was to stabilize Naira? Is it their solutions? Like you asked, what is the main essence of that loan? The main essence of that loan is to create the liquidity that NNPC needed to make sure that we don't have scarcity of petroleum product across Nigeria. Because if NNPC did not enter into that deal to provide the liquidity the foreign needed to import these petroleum products, by now we should be having scarcity of petroleum products across the filling stations, across the states of the federation. So NNPC having to supply to them so that they can use to purchase petroleum products. Shamefully, we are purchasing 100% of our local consumption. So there is a lot of pressure on CBN from the NNPC every day asking for foreign to import petroleum products. So NNPC also being a fundamental rich institution of government or a private a commercialized entity but 100% owned by government. With rich assets has to enter into that deal so they can provide that liquidity by form of swap or advanced good sell.
Mr. Steve,
that's what that deal is for. So NNPC is moving enough to purchase petroleum product at least to the tune of for the period of 4-5 months.
All right.
Now the question will be, why is CBN battling with insufficient supply of
forex,
of dollar or forex? NNPC is also contributing to it.
How? What do you mean?
Because our major source of forex is the sale of petrol or the sale of crude. How much has been NNPC remitting to CBN coffers? This is where the big challenge is. So the same NNPC is not making available the sales of the crude sale or the sales of the proceeds of our crude. It's also demanding forex from the CBN. So I am not seeing the synergy among these two key agencies of government. On one hand, you are revenue generating agency, find the major revenue generating agency of Nigeria, which is an NNPC.
Yes.
On the other hand, you are demanding dollar from another agency that is meant to stabilize the exchange market by making available dollars to those who need it. So we NNPC to be coming and claim to tell Nigeria how much we are producing, how much proceeds you have, so that we'll be able to understand what is going on. So like I said earlier, most of these very transactions are all shredded in secrecy. We don't get to understand.
All right.
They are very simple. How much of this crude did we sell?
Yeah, Mr. Steve, now still with
how much of this crude or petroleum product did we import?
Can you hear me?
How can we balance it?
Mr. Steve, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, now still with the NNPC, I've got these pieces of puzzle. I want you to help me put them together so that it's going to make sense to me and also our listener and also our viewers as well. The issue of Dangote refinery coming out to say NNPC have other commitments with other entities, especially the Afroxim Bank, where they collected the loan of $3 billion with the promise that they will pay with crude. It is a crude loan. They will be paying with crude oil, and now that is one of the reasons why NNPC is unable to supply crude oil to NNPC. That has made NNPC now to import crude oil from outside Nigeria.
That made Orlando to import.
And then Dangote refinery to import.
Yes,
Dangote to import. In all of this, it's a piece of puzzle that I'm kind of finding it difficult to put together to give me a clear picture. What would you say about this particular issue?
I hope I can provide. I just hope I can provide answers to it, because they are all half truths. Dangote refinery coming out quickly, just weeks after or days after the NNPC secured a $3 billion crude advance sales. Coming out to start accusing NNPC or telling the world that they are now importing crude. They are all just half truth. If you are actually going to start production or refining of products in October, by August, ending of August, you must have had delivery of those goods, such petroleum or crude oil in your plants, so that you can start doing the test running prior before your pickup. And like we understand, they say they are going to start with about 350,000 barrels per day.
Yes, and funny enough,
so I think it's a cheap blackmail.
NNPC have 20% stake in Dangote refinery, so I don't understand why the lack of synergy. And we already know that there has been agreement or understanding to say that between Dangote refinery and NNPC, even before NNPC went ahead to borrow that $3 billion.
That's why I said earlier that these are all half truths. Why is Dangote refinery coming out quickly to start making such claims that they are now importing crude oil? It still half truth. Maybe something in the agreements have gone wrong. Because I know for sure the cheapest and the closest crude that Dangote will get is Nigerian crude.
Of course. Certainly.
Because you're not going to, the cost of logistics for carrying it to your depot will be much cheaper.
Yeah, of course.
Than buying from somewhere in Angola or buying from somewhere in Ghana. So, and we have 20% stake in Dangote refinery. And we have also made a commitment to make sure that there is a sufficient supply of crude to Dangote refinery, so they will come out clear, tell Nigerians what is going on. So Dangote coming out to blackmail NNPC for the advanced sales crude or future sales crude. We've been economical with the truth.
But don't you think,
and on the other hand, why would NNPC hurriedly enter into such agreement to sell their food in futures or to sell their future foods when they know that Dangote in a couple of weeks will be demanding for crude? So I think it's left for them to actually come out clean so that Nigerians will understand what is going on.
Talking about what Nigerians would understand, Mr. Steve, don't you think it's because a lot of Nigerians are putting so much of their hope on Dangote refinery, and now they will be thinking that the price of petrol will come down astronomically after Dangote's refinery begins production? And by using the fact that they are importing crude from outside Nigeria, it will give them a leverage to sell their petroleum, their petrol PMS at a higher rate or close to what we are already buying after importing from outside Nigeria.
That would be quite funny, and honestly, it would be a disservice to Nigeria if Dangote, after receiving the goodwill of the people, the nation of Nigeria, and the government of Nigeria, we pay Nigerians back in that manner with those intrigues. That would be total disservice to this nation by Dangote, Aliko Dangote himself. Just like you said, Nigerian schools have been raised, have been built around his refinery. So to start indulging in this kind of very crude attitude of giving false impressions, I don't think that would be good of him, and Nigerians will not receive that with good faith. Like you said, over time, since the inception or since the construction of this plant is done, Nigerian hopes and faith has been built around that refinery as the Messiah, as the relief that we may get from the price of at least the stability and the stability in price and supply of these very petroleum products to the Nigerian market. So coming with these very intrudes, Nigerians will not really receive it, and I hope it's not what he's doing.
All right, Mr. Steve, thank you very much for adding your thought on this particular topic. We have other issues that we will be looking at, but before then, we will go pay some bills. And when we come back immediately, we have a lot of bones that you need to add flesh to on the program today. Our listener and our viewers, this is Front Page Recap on Voice of the People, 96.1 FM Abuja. Stay with us and please don't move a muscle. The show continues after now.
Yeah, VOP TV. VOP TV. Yeah, VOP TV. VOP TV.
We have been serving you hot and fresh content on radio, and you have been loving it. Now we're taking it further. Catch us live on YouTube at VOP TV for all the juicy content you can't resist. Talk shows, exclusive interviews, news, lifestyle, and more. It's all about you. VOP TV, show up, speak up. VOP TV.
The award-winning pizza in the US is now here in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Romeo, the pizza champions, and cold berry ice cream. Delight in every school. Visit any of our outlets and feel the rich taste from the pizza champions and cold berry ice cream.
At number 4, Ogbomosho Street,
Area 8, Geriki, Abuja, or 3rd Avenue, Gwarinpa, Abuja, or Federal Housing Estate, Phase 2, Lube, Abuja. Call 0908-831-5906 or 0908-831-5908 or 0909-238-9861. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter at romeospizza.ng.
website
www.romeospizza.ng. Romeo, the pizza champions.
Welcome back, and in case you just joined, this is Front Page Recap on Voice of the People, 96.1 FM Abuja, and my name is Aliu Doma. With me on the program today, I have a guest who has been doing justice to our topics today, Mr. Steve Wachku, who is an economist. Thank you very much, Mr. Steve, for staying with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's move to Federal Inland Revenue Service, because we've talked a lot about NNPC and also the currency. These are agencies that are working closely, and whenever the NNPC and every other revenue generating agency in Nigeria work, they have to remit to the FIRS. And now we have a new boss for the FIRS, Mr. Zaccheaus Adedeji, who is a well-experienced tax administrator, a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria as well. What are your expectations from Zac Adedeji?
Well, my expectation does not cost short of that of the expectation of Nigerians. We are having issues around our revenue collections. and our chief revenue collector of Nigeria, we expect him to do the needful. Just like is in the agenda of this very government to raise our net tax net from somewhere around 10.3% to 18%. So we expect him to lead the top. What are these expectations? What are the things that you needed to do to actually shore up our revenue collection? First and foremost is to block the linkages. And how do you block the linkages? Introduce technology in tax collection. Remove human hands. That's the only way we can shore up or make up this very 18% target of our tax net. So that's what Nigerians expect from him. Block linkages. If you can block linkages by making sure that corruption is cut in collection of our taxes, that we have to show up the revenue of the nation. We are in dire need of revenue to fix our physical project or physical demands.
Of course.
So he needs to live up to expectation. He should kill the corruption around him, around the office, those that will come to sustain the federal government, those that will come to sustain the Nigerians by undertaking other areas that will bring more Nigerians into the tax net. A good number of Nigerians are not paying tax. A good number of Nigerians are underpaying tax.
About 41 million Nigerians who are paying tax.
Oh, that would be so a lot of Nigerians, because by my own estimation, we have less than 25 million. Because the only people that we can be registered is paying tax are those in corporate private businesses. A few of them are not paying, but majority of the corporate private businesses are paying because the mode of payments is automated.
Yeah.
So government can easily access them. But those that still pays their secretary, their staff with hand payments, with cash, you hardly can account for it. So, and those in public servants, then some of our corporate organizations, the blue chip companies. Apart from that, a good number of Nigerians are not tax obedient or tax adherents. It's either they underpay, or they sustain, or they invest payment of tax. So the 45 million, if we actually have a number of 45 million Nigerian paying, that will be so much. And have in mind that we also have a 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor. You don't tax the poor, so they are poor, they don't have money. How will they pay tax? So I don't know from where the 45 million Nigerians actually came from.
41.
Because we have less than that number that are paying tax. That's why it seems like the few of Nigerians that are paying tax are overpaying. There is a lot of tax burden on them. That's why we are talking about cracking down the multiplicity of tax. The few that is paying for almost everything. So the new sheriff in town should look other ways to bring more Nigerians into the tax net, at least to attain this 18% tax net target. So what can he do? Like I said earlier, keep corruptions around his office, keep corruptions around his institutions, and kill the idea of using human hands for tax collections. Introduce technology in tax collection. That's a way to cut the human interference in tax collection, which reduces the amount of money that should be collected by these collecting agencies. Another thing he also needs to do, which perhaps may not be by his own will, which has to do with Mr. President, is to bring in or close down or merge most of these tax collecting agencies. Multiplicity of these agencies creates this revenue linkages. When you have multiple agencies collecting taxes, it gives rooms for these linkages that you are seeing that Nigerians are witnessing in tax collection.
So are you saying
revenue collection?
Are you saying we should not harmonize everything and hand it over to Federal Inland Revenue Service?
It may be a federal inland, but the point is just bring them together. There should be synergy, there should be harmonization, there should be portable merger, so that we can have control of this very collection of the taxes. Have in mind that the existing laws permit most of these revenue collecting agencies to retain some.
Of course.
So imagine when you have multiple of them retaining. So it means that the revenue also collected is being reduced. The law permits them to retain some percentage as the cost of collection of tax. So when you have multiplicity of them, why not? Customs and NIMASA is almost doing the same thing. Federal Inland Revenue and what again? A good number of them agencies that do just the multiplicity of duplication of government functions. So they should come together so that the revenue collection for this country will improve. But most importantly, is to be innovative to bringing more Nigerians into the tax net, reduce the overburden multiplicity of taxes on Nigerians. That is what Nigerians are expecting from him.
All right. Now, Mr. Steve, for the purpose of record, the 41 million Nigerians who are paying tax was disclosed by the former chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, talking about Mohammed Nami, when he went for the public presentation and breakdown of the highlights of the 2022 appropriation bill here in Abuja. That was when he made that claim on the 8th of October 2021. But away from that now, let's talk about the issue of small and medium scale enterprises in Nigeria having to complain over time of multiple taxation. What do you think the new boss, talking about the Zach Adedeji, should do or put in place to have a more enabling environment for the small and medium scale enterprises in Nigeria?
I've said it earlier. All we just need is introduce technology and remove those layers of collections. The village head will collect, the community will collect from one businessman, the local government will come, the state government will come, the zonal will come, then federal government with multiple agencies backing one single business entity. So we just need some level of sanity in tax collection. Harmonization of these multiple tasks will help businesses to strive. So it's expected of him to be innovative in providing ways that this tax burden on existing taxpayers will be reduced. Businesses are lamenting, businessmen are lamenting, entrepreneurs are lamenting, they are paying for signage, they are paying for the arboro, they are paying for local government development fee, the permits fee, operational permits fee, and all that. There is a lot of burden on entrepreneurs. Once you start a business, in the next couple of weeks and months, you start seeing them flooding your business premises. And the statistics are there that in less than 1 year, that business will 80% of that business will probably collapse or close down because of these multiple layers of tax and burden on businesses. So he needs to help. I understand that the Committee on Fiscal and Tax Reform is coming up with their report in a couple of weeks or days. And I'm very sure my good friend and brother and colleague Taiwo must have done a good job. And if federal government should be sincere enough to implement 60 to 50% of their recommendation, a lot of these issues we talked about will be dealt with. So it's just a question of the political will of Mr. President to implement what that very committee, the outcome or their recommendations will be. So we expect that committee to make public of their recommendations so that Nigerians will see. Because I know for sure that my friend and brother Taiwo will do a good job.
All right, let's hope so.
So
we will continue to monitor developments there as it unfolds. We will make it available to Nigerians. Let's move to the issue of Central Bank of Nigeria. Considering our time, Cardoso assumes office as CBN governor. Emefiele resigns. We got this information late yesterday. A statement by the Director of Corporate Communications of the Apex Bank, Dr. Isa Abdul Mumin, disclosed this late yesterday. He said that Dr. Cardoso would occupy the office in acting capacity pending the confirmation of his nomination by the National Assembly. He went further to say, and also confirmed the resignation of Mr. Godwin Emefiele as CBN governor as Cardoso resumes. Similarly, the Mr. Folashodun Shunobi, who has been acting as the governor of the CBN, had also resigned alongside other deputy governors. What should we expect from Mr. Cardoso and his people? What kind of policies should we be expecting at this dire moment that we found ourselves in this country?
Well, my response will be to the office of the governor and the occupier of that office. But I will not be expecting much as comment much on the process of his appointment, the legitimacy of and other things surrounding his office. But like I said, my response rather will be to the office and the institution of the CBN. Because whosoever occupies that office of the governor or the institution should be sincere with Nigerians. Sincere in the sense that a lot of policies have been pushed out from that very institution from the NPC have not been that ongoing well with Nigeria. You remember in the last 18 months or 16 months, the NPC, the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN, has moved our MPR from somewhere around 11.5% to a current position of 18.75%, over 750 basis points. What is the aim of the CBN, or what is the claim of CBN? Inflationary figures are going up. They need to tackle it and make sure that they moderate the rate at which inflation is going up. Now, let me also shock you. From the time of this very movement of the MPR from 11.5% to 18.75%, inflation rate has also gone up from somewhere around 14.7% to a current position of 25%. Has CBN achieved the aim of moving our MPR from that 11.5% to 18.75%? The answer is no. Now, in a couple of days or weeks, the MPC will be meeting again to relax their recommendation or the whatever they must have decided to adjust the key parameters, the cash reserve ratio, the MPR, the monetary policy rate, and the rest. What are the expectations of Nigerians? You cannot continue to raise the MPR thinking that you are trying to curb or moderate inflation. not knowing or knowing also, because I'm very sure they are very much aware that the main consequences of the high inflationary figures we are having are not demand push. It's not coming from the demand push. They are structural, they are fundamental issues that should be tackled by the physical policy makers. They are not from the supply push. Sorry, they are more of supply. We are having shortage of supply of foreign. The logistics to convey or to hold products, both agricultural products, is going up because of the cost of petroleum products.
Yeah.
These are the main structural and fundamental issues that is causing the rise or the inflationary figures we are having. It has nothing to do with the flow of cash. It has nothing to do with the money in circulation. So CBN should desist from raising the MPC. The more you are raising the MPC, or maybe you hit a 20%, it will cost more for businesses, manufacturers, and entrepreneurs to obtain loans from the commercial banks. It will even raise the number of defaults because higher interest rates give a higher percentage of defaults because it's more difficult for the businesses to maintain their loans. And that may also lead to instability in our financial sector. 2-3 days ago, a report came out showing that the volume, about, I think around 370 billion or thereabouts, at the size of impairments provided by the commercial bank in the second quarter financial year. Meaning that the number of defaults, the number of Nigerians who have failed to pay their loans are rising. So you cannot disassociate it from the rising cost of loans or loan facilities. So CBN should be mindful of that. We still need some level of stability in our commercial banks. If we expose them to a higher rate, it now will expose businesses to default. So we expect a good position from the CBN and the management team of CBN, and look at other policies that we have. Provide targeted funds to critical areas, to critical sectors of our nation in a single digit. That should be the priority of the CBN. While working in synergy with the critical policy makers to make sure that most of these critical decisions are taken care of, so that we have some level of sanity in our pricing system. Pricing in our agricultural products, in each production and pricing, and even in pricing of our petroleum product, because that's the main driver of inflation.
Yes, Mr. Steve, rather, you talk about synergy with other stakeholders, especially from the fiscal policy makers. The new central bank governor who just taking over from Godwin Emefiele, talking about Cardoso, and also the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and now to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, where we have Zach Adedeji. These three persons, let me say, the tripod upon which our economy stand, are people, like-minded people who kind of work in the past with one another. What do you think that would be to the Nigerian economy, as opposed to what we saw during the Buhari's administration, where there was no cordial working relationship between the central bank and also the Minister of Finance?
I'm so happy that this perception is here. They are coming from one family. They've known themselves for long. They don't have issues of rivalry. Good and very fantastic. They should get to work. the synergy we have been talking about, the collaboration we have been talking about, they should put it to effect right away. They should go to work. I'm so happy that the perception of the synergy we have talked about, that they are from one family, they work together, there's no rivalry. We need to start seeing them working together. That's what Nigerians expect from them. Let those synergy collaboration start working immediately. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steve Nwachukwu. You've really done justice to the conversation today. I'm sure we've got a very rich program today. Time is not on our side. I don't know if you have anything to say, your parting shots before we wrap up.
Well, I will only tell them, just like you asked the last questions, we need these guys to work together. They are working for the good of the majority of Nigerians. They should see Nigeria first. There is nothing in reaching one step. Nothing you will benefit in corrupting yourself. We talked about synergy. We talked about collaboration. These are the areas Nigerians expect them to work. The mobilization of funds and efficiency in spending of these funds. And making sure that some of these policies of governments are all reviewed. That's the expectations of Nigerians. The Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Planning, Budget and Planning, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the CBN, the Revenue Collecting Agency, they should all come together and work in synergy. We need a lot of funds. CBN should desist from having authority. The Ministry of Finance should desist from having the debt market to obtain loans anymore. You already have debt burden on us.
Yeah, of course.
So these are the expectations of Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steve Nwachukwu, an economist there, lead researcher. Thank you. We really appreciate your contribution on the show, as always.
Always my pleasure.
All right, have a fantastic weekend. And our listeners, our viewer, we have come to the end of our program today, talking about Front Page Recap, Saturday edition, 23rd day in the month of September 2023. My name is Ali Udoma, and I appreciate you for leaving your dial on 96.1 FM Abuja. And for those of you who watch on our YouTube handle at Voice of the People Abuja, we say thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We will definitely appreciate that. And for those of you who follow me on my personal handle on my Facebook page, Ali Udoma, thank you very much. I appreciate your followership on my content. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And this is how far we can go on the program. Other interesting programs will continue through on Voice of the People 96.1 FM Abuja. Take care of yourself and do have a lovely weekend.